Welcome to the 2026 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I am Neha Jagnani, and today we'll be exploring a topic that is shaping the future of leadership in every organization. Our theme for this session today is human intelligence in leadership in the age of AI. To help us navigate this important conversation, we are delighted to welcome Richa Singh. Richa is the founder of Axon Arbor, a full stack learning and development solution firm. Prior to this, she was serving as VP Human Resources, taking care of L&D, DEI, and CSR at Axis Max Life Insurance. She has previously worked with the ITC Hotels, the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group. Richa is a coach, mentor, and DiSC Assessor. She was recently recognized as 26 of 2026 Trailblazing Women in Business by HRAI. She is a member of Nagrik e-Choupal on SDG Goals by Niti Aayog. She is also an advisor to an NBFC in Mumbai. Richa has worked closely with people from marginalized communities during a stint at the Keshav Suri Foundation. An alumni of IIM Kolkata, she firmly believes that culture is the backbone that decides the longevity of an organization. Richa, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you, Neha. The pleasure is absolutely mine.
Thanks a lot. So I look forward to this exciting masterclass today, Richa. To begin with, my first question is, as AI transforms workplace, how can leaders ensure that empathy, coaching, and human connection, they remain at the heart of leadership?
Thank you. Thank you, Neha, for this wonderful question. I think, there's a lot of conversation around AI. There's a lot of conversation. There's also a lot of confusion.
Right.
Because there is so much information that I see in my work as an independent consultant. I see that a lot of companies are picking up the models,
Right.
right? They're purchasing platforms, they're purchasing licenses, but they don't really know what to do with it, right? And a lot of employees currently at workplaces are almost running experiments and trying to decipher on their own that what is the best use of the technology at hand. But I think what is most critical is that, especially at this time of great flux, the responsibility of leaders is even high. That we should not forget that the real qualities of empathy, coaching, human connection should not get lost in all of this, conversation, because technology is something that will keep happening. It will keep evolving, it'll keep presenting us with new possibilities. But one mustn't forget that the qualities and the tenets of leadership are non-negotiable. It is important for leaders to remember that they need to prioritize their presence over productivity, right? How can we do that? Through one-on-one coaching, through conversations, through actually carving out time for that connect with your people. It's also important, I think, to show a little bit of vulnerability. Like I said, this is also a confusing time, right? And the leader could actually say that, hey, you know what? I don't know so much about this. Can you tell me? And that gives a very humane and a very human angle to the leader and makes him or her very, very approachable, right? So that's another way in which leaders can kind of continue to form that human connection. I know for a fact that organizations love data, right? We make decisions which are data-based, data-backed, and that's how it should be. But I think what's also important is to trust intuition, to know that AI is giving you a lot of data, but how am I getting confused by all that information? Is it important to understand the history and the past experiences of that situation in order to have that beautiful blend of data as well as intuition to arrive at the right decision? And I think lastly, what is most important for me also is engagement, celebration, recognizing milestones, being with your people on days and on life events that are life changing for them, It could be their children's education, their graduation. It could be someone's marriage. It could be a birth of a child. But all of this AI cannot do. It can definitely remind you that there's something on your calendar, but you have to take out time to pick up the phone and connect with that person.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Beautifully put. Just to summarize, Richa, taking out time to communicate with your team, showing vulnerability, then there is, I don't know, showing up. It's not necessary that you should have all the answers as a leader. It also gives the opportunity for your team to open up as well. There is trusting your intuition, there is engagement, celebration, and engaging yourself with the team in the life events. So it adds a lot of value, and it will ensure that empathy, coaching, and human connections actually remain at the heart of leadership. So thank you so much for that. Moving on to the next question, Richa, which is, with your experience in L&D, how should organizations redesign leadership development for an AI-driven future?
Thank you. While I was working in my last organization, the AI bug had already bitten us. And, there was a lot of curiosity around this. So I think what we did was just this exploratory, right? And also to understand that AI is hyper personalized. So it will understand what is it that you do, what role do you do. So, for example, if I'm talking about marketing, within marketing there are several sub functions, right? And then there are roles as per hierarchy in the organization. So there is a lot of curiosity around AI, and obviously everybody comes to learning and development to say that, hey, I want to try this platform and that platform, and can I get licenses and so on. So to understand that the L&D function has to be an enabler and not a gatekeeper is the number one thing, right? It's great that people are curious. It's great that people want to try new technology. It's absolutely wonderful. But how do we maintain that wonderful balance and also know that there are risks attached to it, right? Know that has to be a balance of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. We have to understand what have been our past experiences, what is the new data, what is the new light that AI is showing us, and how do we then make an even better informed decision. In terms of, the specific question that you asked me, I think it's important to kind of bring a structure to ensure that everybody gets onto the bus and that we build digital fluency in all employees. So it can't be just the ones who are coming up and, who are enthusiastic and who are curious. And, we say, okay, you raise your hand and here is what we can do with you or for you. But I think it's important to build digital fluency so that there's a certain standard of knowledge that is prevalent in the organization. So that's, I think, one. The second thing I have personally used AI in an organization is building role plays. So it's a wonderful feature where, let's say there's an organization which has a huge sales force, right? And they are spread all over the country. Now, how do you ensure that each and every person, each and every feet on street understands your product, is able to explain all the features of the product, is able to answer the questions that could potentially come their way from a customer? So AI has this beautiful role play, right, which is now very easily available, that anybody can actually create a scenario, put in the correct answer, and AI will become your coach. And before you even meet an actual customer, you can do a role play with AI. In a safe environment, AI will correct you. And in institutions, it will give the supervisor a report to say that, okay, this person has scored this much, and these are the areas of, improvement for them. So that's one feature that I love about AI. It can be used in a variety of ways. I took an example of sales team, but it can also be used for something as simple as language. I know for a fact that a lot of people struggle with, let's say, communication, basic communication, right? So, for example, I'm a supervisor and I need to do a performance appraisal or a tough conversation with a team member. Can I practice that? So that's a feature now that's available. Um, and like I said, I think the most important thing for the L&D function is to keep the balance between ethics of protecting company data, knowing that employees are able to kind of explore and experiment within the security of the company environment, so that critical business information does not travel outside, right? Because if there is AI that is freely available to you and me, it is actually clawing information from all over the world. So we have to know that what kind of information are we feeding? Because every time I use AI, I'm also training the model, right? And it is becoming better with every use. So we have to be conscious of that.
Absolutely. Very well said, Richa. So to start with, you said that L&D, is more of an enabler, not a gatekeeper. So we have to, make it very clear. Then there is digital fluency, the importance of building structures that are open for all, not, giving people the option to opt out, but some digital fluency has to be there in the system for people. A great example there for building the role play, through AI, which need not only help a particular function, but it will really, be applicable to any function for that matter. And lastly, balancing ethics and company data, ensuring that while things are transparent, but the information does not travel. So thank you so much for your inputs. Moving on to the next question, Richa, which is how can leaders leverage AI while still fostering a culture of building belonging, trust, and inclusion across teams?
That's that's an interesting question. I think, um, how do we leverage AI? Well, everybody's using it, right? But how do we not lose sight of the fact that the primary responsibility of the leader is still to create a culture of belonging, trust, and inclusion? Um, I think it's important to know, and there was a study that my firm had posted some time back on LinkedIn to say that, AI is also understanding bias.
Mm.
For example, there was a small experiment that my team did where they said that, okay, give me an image of a CEO, and it returned an image of a male CEO, right? So, what AI is doing is actually giving us results of the information that has been fed by millions and millions of humans all over the world. So it is actually now perpetuating that bias. So we have to understand that as leaders, when we get some information or our team members are getting some information off of AI, we need to be very critical about it and analyze it very, very critically to understand, does this already have some inherent bias that it is propagating? Okay, so that's where the leader's lens comes into view. I think that's extremely critical. So that you're able to kind of, pinpoint that this might not be correct. Or if there's nothing wrong with that image of a male person. When I ask for a CEO, it gives a male figure. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I continue to kind of bring that image and, put out that image, then somewhere along the line, the other half of the world, which is the women community, suddenly feel invisible and feel that, there are no women CEOs that can be used as an example, and which is, which will undo all the work that we've done all of the years in the space of diversity and inclusion,
Sure.
right? I think it's also important to know and to propagate that there has to be transparency, right? When I say that, I mean that the AI tool or LLM is freely available to all the employees in the organization. But are our employees or our managers and leaders aware that what is the extent of its usage? Till what stage are they getting dependent on it? Is it completely stripping away your creative thinking? Is it completely, are you just trusting it blindly? So that's another thing. I think transparency is very, very important. And like I said, AI has to be a support tool. It cannot be the end all and be all of, all our processes. It is there to support you. It's there to make you faster, sharper, all of those things. But it cannot be the end all and be all. I think we have to understand, we have to understand that. And definitely, I'm a big proponent of AI. I can tell you with confidence that, being a new founder, something that would have taken me a lot of money and a lot of time, now I get done very quickly, within a span of hours, and actually at no cost or very minimal cost. So it's a great tool. I love it. But in organizations, I think it's important to know, because, Neha, I come to think of it and say that, okay, let's say I'm a CXO, and I have these senior people who are all using AI.
Right.
Then where does my judgment come in to say that, okay, this person is doing probably a better job than the others? Because probably now, with the access of AI, the output is more or less homogeneous,
Right.
right? And that's where, your personal understanding of the business, the pulse of the business, that's where it should shine. And say that, okay, creating a fancy presentation or an animated video, or, making these graphs and data cuts is nothing great anymore, because that's become vanilla. What is important is your pulse, your understanding of the pulse of the business.
Sure, sure. And I think that is the reason you said that trusting your intuition is also very, very important because you're using AI every day. So I loved how you beautifully started with an example that your firm has spoken about the AI understanding the bias. Very, very important for leader to pitch in and think from his lens when AI throws up such stuff. While it is true, but it's how a human react and how human takes care of it whenever they are handling AI. Transparency, very, very important, and also understanding that AI is just a support tool. It will not do everything for you. So very, very important there. Thank you so much. My next question, Richa, is you've built leadership and culture across diverse organizations. What human capabilities do you believe AI can never replace?
Lots, actually. I read a very, uh, how should I say it, very smart quote a couple of months ago. That time AI was just coming out, and it said that I want AI to do my dishes and my laundry, not to do my art and creative thinking. And I think it just stuck in my head ever since. I think AI cannot replace creative thinking. I know that there is a lot of music, a lot of written content, a lot of novels being published using AI. Uh, I also know that a lot of people are using AI to write, for example, LinkedIn posts. But I know for a fact that there are readers, and there are, readers who will completely reject anything that is AI generated because it lacks the authenticity
Right.
of the written human word, of the human emotion, of feelings. That is something that AI cannot replace. It can give you a lot of content at the, flick of a hand, but I don't think it can really express the way humans express. It can mimic you for sure. It can understand your style. It can, almost write the way you do. But I think it's very easy. Nobody's training us, but I look at content on LinkedIn and I know what is AI generated and what is not. And I also see the kind of engagement that is coming on content that is authentically written and content that is AI generated. So I see that. So, I mean, I have a Gen Z at home, and I can see that he immediately rejects anything that's AI written. He's like, oh, that's AI written. He doesn't even look at it. So that's what Gen Z is turning out to be. I think relationships is another thing that AI cannot replace. The power of human connection. How are you able to connect with other human beings, whether in your personal life or professional life? Empathy is another one that AI cannot replace. So all of these human values are something that of course AI cannot replace. But like I said, I'm a huge fan of AI. So what AI is doing is giving me a lot of time to focus on things that are important like this. While it has freed up my time from the inane, mundane activities, which would have been very time consuming, I am now able to focus and divert my time on more relationship building with my network. So I
Right.
think that's how I'm seeing it.
Sure, sure, absolutely. There is creative thinking, there is human expression, there is relationship, there is empathy. All these things can never be replaced by AI. Thank you so much, Richa. This brings us to the last question for today, which is what practical advice would you give to leaders who want to embrace AI without losing the human essence of leadership?
um, I think I hardly know of anybody who's not using AI. Um, you know, all generations. So Gen Z is almost native to it, right? Gen X, boomers, I think everybody's using AI. What's interesting is that AI is available at the palm of your hand, right? It's there on your phones, and
Right.
people are finding it interesting to experiment, right? As of now, I would say AI is still being used as a sounding board and more like I'll put in a question and I'll get an answer. But if we really think about improving productivity, reaching out to a much wider, larger audience, there are a lot of AI tools that one can explore in order to really, really work, um, improve their productivity and let's say look at doing work in a completely different manner. AI is really changing the way we work, but right now, at large, I would say AI usage is still limited to I ask you a question and you give me an answer. A lot of people I know are also using it for as a buddy, as a coach, almost like a mental health expert. And a lot of Gen Z are using it like that. I know of some of my friends in my circle who are using that if they are faced with a conundrum and they don't know who to consult, they go to AI. So it's like I said, it's become like a sounding board, but I think it's heavily underutilized. I think there is still a lot of 95% of the AI world that is still left to be explored. People have really automated their workflows, freed up a lot of their time. But yes, like I said before, a fine balance is very important, and over dependence is not something that I would advise.
Sure, absolutely. So, great takeaways from this one, Richa. A lot of people using AIs to just get answers to their questions. But there are so many tools available to improve your productivity, which leaders can leverage for their team. Instead of using it as a sounding board, there is much more scope of AI that is being underutilized. And you know it's very very important that you treat it as a supporting tool. As you rightly said, you cannot move forward without AI in today's world, and it's very interesting how leaders are leveraging it, and it will continue to evolve, I'm sure. So thank you so much for your insights today. This brings us to the end of this session. On behalf of HRAI, I thank you for your time and valuable insights. I think today's conversation has reminded us that AI will continue to, redefine the way we work, but it's that human intelligence that will redefine how we lead, how we create cultures. And there are so many things which we discussed today, which AI cannot really replace. So thank you so much for beautifully putting your insights together today.
Thank you for inviting me, Neha. It's always a pleasure to be associated with HRAI.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot for your time.